Welcome everyone. It is a full moon in Taurus, and this means that our emotions are going to be triggered in areas dealing with money, material comforts, value systems, boundary issues, attachments, foundations, self-worth, and sometimes stubbornness. So when we are looking at the Taurus energy, one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that Taurus is a beautiful sign with a lot of virtues, right? They have this virtue of patience, being friendly, being reliable, being constant, being faithful. They have that virtue, faithfulness, because they're also known to be stubborn, right? But it's because they have faith in what they're being, quote unquote, stubborn about. And they're incredibly loyal. So lots of virtues here with the Taurian energy. And when it comes to making decisions, they're actually very level-headed. I have a lot of water signs, and my ascendant in tropical is Taurus. And I always say, thank God that I have this Taurus energy in me, because you can speak to any of my friends. They're like, how do you do this over here that requires you to have a very linear, grounded, quote unquote, Taurian energy, right? Because it's very prudent and very sensible. And then there will be other situations where my friends are like, oh my God, that is so Piscean, right? Because I just went flighty on them or on something, or I just totally forgot about something. So I have this like in me that I have these two worlds and lots of extremes in my charts. But it makes me feel comfortable to feel this sort of Taurian energy coming in, this earth sign coming in at this time in our collective world and experience and in humanity's history. So unlike the previous energies where it felt like not grounded, perhaps even because we had that Scorpion engagement, which we still do, but it kind of goes deep underground and etc. This really feels that it is a more tolerable energy for me, if I could explain it that way. Of course, in its more challenging aspects, the Taurus can be intolerant, right? They can be incredibly proud. They can be sometimes slow to make decisions. And like I said, stubbornness is one of those qualities that you might get in a Taurus energy, and even passive engagement, and obviously materialism. That comes into play if you are not necessarily grounded in other value systems. Then you could fall prey to this space of materialism, right? Like, how much do you really need? How much do you really want? We're seeing this even play out on a global scale with certain companies even influencing either the elections in America or just influencing our environment with their greedy engagement with materialism, in spite of or in disregard to the earth, right? So we see this dichotomy with Taurus being this earth element, and perhaps us seeing some things being rolled back with environmental protections, where the earth is not valued, right? Where what's valued is this monetary, materialistic, superficial system of worth. Let's just put it that way. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So Taurus is ruled by Venus, and it affects the chakra systems of the sacral, the heart, and the throat. So whenever we do have a moon in Taurus, there's this overwhelming emotional need for security and for progress and for perhaps even an old system, an old habit, things that make us feel safe, right? So if we're going into, and everything is a duality, everything is a tumultuous experience, if we're going into this full moon with that emotional need, the opposite of that could be us feeling insecure. It could be us wondering about our spiritual progress. It could be about our tendency to be stubborn about the past and not wanting to move forward. So finding our real self and values at this time is incredibly important. Incredibly important. Whenever we're dealing with Venus, Venus represents this beauty, but she also represents appreciation for the beautiful things in life. And as it stands, most people associate Venus with either prosperity, money, luxury, cars, boats, airplanes, arts, taking pleasures in life, etc. When we're having this engagement with Venus and a moon in Taurus, it is about feminine power and attractiveness. That's the word that just came in. Attractiveness. What are we attracted to? What are we magnetizing in our world, right? So keeping these big, broad themes in mind when we're speaking of the moon in Taurus, let's be super aware during this time period, especially with the full moon that will be revealing a lot. Let's be aware that there are people that are perhaps leaning towards the more challenging aspects of what we think is materialism, property, or what we think is financial success, what that means, right? What that means. And we'll talk a little bit about the word that came through in the next slide, but I do want you to keep this energy of what exactly are your emotional needs right now. We just went through a horrific outcome for a seemingly horrific outcome, I should say, because I don't know who's who anymore, of this president-elect who is bent on perhaps ushering through the more challenging aspects of the Taurian energy versus its more beneficial aspects that actually does have to do with your spiritual sacred value systems versus the value systems on the material plane. Yeah, that's what I'll say about that. Let's go on to the next slide. So the meditation word, the word that came through when I was meditating for this video offering, was validation. Validation. What do you need to validate who you are? What does that mean to you? Because right now what's going on in this world is that certain people feel they are not being valued. This includes women. This includes immigrants. This includes marginalized people all over the world, believing that they are not valued. And the reason that sentiment is arising is because we see corporations, we see lots of individuals behind the corporations, right? I don't want to just put a blanket statement out here and say it's the corporation's fault. No, it's not. A corporation is just a legal entity. There are people behind the corporations. So we also have to start speaking differently. There are people with a lot of money and influence that have valued materialism, possessions, property over humanity. And so when we're dealing with this full moon in Taurus, we will have our chakra systems of the sacral chakra of power, the heart chakra, and our throat chakra activated through one of these 3 tarot archetypes that are influenced by the planet Venus. The first one being the Empress, who is also the representation of Taurus. And when we're speaking of the Empress, we are speaking about power, not empowerment. I love the word empowerment because it's something that I actually do teach people to learn to empower themselves through these archetypal patternings, and it's really important. And we are actually this month going into the space of power. Women tend to be afraid of power. They're afraid of it because of, I could give you a plethora of reasons why. A plethora. So we need to start speaking more about power. It's great to be empowered. Empowered for me means you've got certain aspects of yourself that will bring out the best qualities of you. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And then once you have these best qualities of yourself, what kind of power are you going to wield? What kind of power? I have people that I know that are environmentalists. A group of us just got together with these environmental advocates who made a change with Citibank, and they were incredibly impressive. And they made the changes that they had aimed to change, right? The earth is important for them, and they want to wield their power to influence the sphere where corporations are not being diligent and responsible with the responsibilities that they do have, that they've been given through their consumers, right? And I could have a same conversation with that individual who cares so much about the planet, and they could give 3 shits about the individual that's dying of hunger. There is something wrong with this picture. If you are unable to value humanity and only value those things that you think are important, then do not be surprised. Please don't be surprised when the shift within humanity is so dire that we can go into this brink of non-existence. In other words, if you do not value poverty in another and acknowledge disenfranchised individuals, and you're just focusing on, I just want to fucking... There's something wrong here. We cannot compartmentalize. I cannot be somebody that says, I only value people tapping into the light, or people, quote unquote, ascending, or people knowing who they are. And then in the same breath say, I don't give a shit about the environment. That would make me an individual that is not congruent with this supposed claim that a lot of spiritual communities have of wanting to, quote unquote, ascend and make a better world. It doesn't work that way. This is why I always push people, especially my students. They can tell you that I don't let them get away with anything. If you are not congruent with every aspect of your life, if you think that you're a good person and you don't care about your neighbors, something's wrong with you. If you think that, oh, I'm such a nature person and I only care about the flowers and you don't care about humanity, and you don't care about people dying across this world, and you don't care about people being killed, something's wrong with you. Something is not congruent. Something is not aligning. And this is where we go into the heart chakra field. When we're going into this heart chakra, which is about what is it that we value? What is it that we love? Right? Where is this going? We're talking about justice, people. That's the second archetype. This is an archetype that is ruled by Venus, but the sign is not Taurus. It's actually Libra. But because Venus is in the mix, I'm bringing her forward and I'm asking you that question. What do you value? And we're specifically focusing on the scales of justice. I always tell people, because I am an attorney, I always tell people that justice is not about equality. It's about equilibrium. If the corporations, for example, have been having their heyday with Mother Earth, justice is not, oh, you can go destroy this part of the planet, but you can't go destroy that part. It doesn't work like that. There's no equality there. There's got to be equilibrium, which means you've had your fill for the last 100 years of destroying this planet slowly. Now we get our fill of 100 years plus of not doing so, right? That would be equilibrium. They would be, for us to have that equilibrium, in that example, right? The corporations would have to have no activity whatsoever because we haven't been able to activate and have activity in saving this planet, right? So again, it goes into our value systems. What is your heart telling you? Because oftentimes when I had this conversation, as I said, with these individuals, oftentimes, okay, you were intellectually able to stop Citibank from doing XYZ, right? But you were not able to drop down to your heart. Being an activist actually requires a lot of brain work. It's not like, oh, I'm going to be an activist and therefore I'm just going to organize and march. It doesn't work that way. We have to drop down, and there are some incredibly difficult conversations coming up. It's just, if we don't know how to forgive the quote unquote person that's on the opposite political spectrum of us, because we're not listening to them. Well, first of all, for me personally, if you're coming to kill me, I obviously don't have anything to say to you. But there are people that are voting or making decisions based solely on their economic interest versus the social well-being of individuals in this nation and on this planet. And then the last archetype that's coming in play, and you have it here, I put it really small, it's the Hierophant. It's not really the last one, but it's the one that's predictable, right? It's the throat chakra. It's the one that's going to speak out. It's the one that is the orator, is the one that's going to tell us, you're right and is wrong, right? I put it in a smaller visual here because I'm feeling it that way. That's not always the case with the Hierophant, but I am feeling it that way. And sometimes that represents government. etc. But part of what we value is, what are we saying about ourselves? What are we saying about our fellow mankind? Are we even speaking our truth based on our value system, right? So those are the three archetypes at play, three tarot archetypes at play this month. And it's all about validation. Validation. Am I doing XYZ to seek validation? Or am I doing ABC to validate who I am? Not only what empowers me, but how I can power up and express my power. And in many cases, especially with these three archetypes at play, it is about the power of leadership. The power of leadership means you influence the outcome of a situation or a circumstance based on your leadership qualities and values. Okay? So when I do the reading, the video reading, I will pull one of these three archetypes for any given moon astrological sign. So keep in mind, I want to do a little focus here. When we're speaking of the Empress, I want you to ask yourself, if that card comes up, where is your power? Do you give your power away, right? This is speaking about the power aspects. And it is very much about feeling also, your feeling. When we're speaking of the Justice card, I want you to think about, what is it that you love? And is it possible for you to open your heart a little wider to love more? To love more. There's never a lack of, I always find it funny when people are like, well, I don't like this. I'm like, there's never a lack of allowing for more love in your life, but people tend to say what they don't like more than what they do love. Anyway, so that's for the Justice card. And if I pull the Hierophant, I want you to say, what is it that you want to speak of? What is it that you're not speaking about to validate your voice, right? To validate who you are and your voice. All right. Let's just go to the next slide, because then I'll talk about the video. I'll talk about the archetypes a little bit when I put the video on. All right. And for those of you that are journaling, remember, during a full moon, it's a great time to wrap things up, complete something, release something, or allow something in your life to be illuminated. For me, I think I'm going to journal a little bit for this full moon in Taurus, more about my goals and my dreams, and ask myself if these goals and dreams are matching my own value system. So I think that's a great journaling experience. So if you do that and it matches your value system, which means, by the way, everyone, that you should know what your value systems are, right? So maybe before you do that engagement, put 5 principles or value systems that dictate how you live your life, and then maybe ask what your goals and dreams are, and then maybe go from there and say, do these match my value system, right? And then if you put these down and they match your value system, make sure that you create some sort of little outline or a plan of action to activate some of these goals and dreams, all right? If the Empress card comes out, you can have an affirmation that says, I am connecting to the earth, and the earth protects me. If you get the Justice card, you can say something like, what I give is what I get. What I give is what I get. And if you have the Hierophant that comes up in the next slide in the video, You can say an affirmation like, embracing the traditions that I value is of service to me and humanity. Embracing the traditions that I value is of service to me and to humanity. All right, let's get to our video. All right, everyone. So here we are. We've got a full moon in Taurus, ruled by the planet Venus. Full moon in Taurus, ruled by the planet Venus. Also, Venus rules the Empress, Justice, and the Hierophant. But the cards that represent Taurus are the Hierophant and the Empress card. So we're going to be focusing on one of those three cards. Whenever we're dealing with the Empress, we're talking about fertility, motherhood, femininity, nurturing, creativity, beauty, continued growth. Sometimes people see this as the financial card, etc. On its more challenging, we're talking about insecurities, we're talking about infertility, right? Things that cannot grow, and lack of confidence, lack of growth. I just mentioned that, etc. So that would be the Empress energy. When we're dealing with the Justice card, this is an energy that's about karmic justice when we're talking about tarot, right? So karmic justice, these are about decisions that we need to maintain in order to achieve justice. Obviously, it's about law, it's about order, it's about honesty, it's about integrity, etc. On its more challenging side, it's about injustice. It's about retribution. It's about disloyalty, dishonesty, stealing, right? Like in its more challenging aspects, stealing some aspect of yourself, avoidance, right? You don't want to face the music kind of energy. That's the more challenging side. And then we have the Hierophant. So the Hierophant represents traditional institutions. Some people see this as government. Other people see it as traditional values. Some people see it as commitment, like marriage commitment. Other people see it as religion, because it is the Pope energy, right? And belief systems. When we're dealing with the Hierophant in its more challenging aspects, some see it as challenging traditions, right? Some see it as unconventional lifestyles. Some see it as, and for that reason, some see this challenge as reserved for non-conformity. That's the energy that I wanted to share. Non-conformity. So this would be non-conformity in its more challenging aspects, right? It's always dependent on the inquiry that we are making. All right. So going through that, let's go on to your cards. Again, I'm focusing on the moon energies. However, you can look at your ascendant and you can look at your sun sign and create a narrative from that. But my focus when I do these readings is really trying to tap in what's your emotions going, what are your emotions going to be like with this full moon in Taurus together with your moon's archetype. And as always, we begin with Aries. Oh, I almost forgot. I am going to be using oracles for this particular reading, and this is the tea leaf fortune cards. I normally don't mix this one with tarot because there's a specific system, but I shuffled all the cards and I pulled out cards and I'm using them as sort of an oracle for this reading. I actually do enjoy the illustrations very much. All right, so that's what we're using. And let's begin with Aries. Wow, Aries, beyond expectations. We've got the 10 of Pentacles. So, of course, we are nearing 10 means completion and beginning of something. Over here, I am being pulled to the Empress, right? Because remember what she represents, this pregnancy. It's like you're ready to give birth to something that is going to yield you money. Your health is in a good space, and you are starting and beginning something new. What you give birth to is beyond your expectations, and it has to do with a bigger empire, right? This is the Empress. So it's tied to something else that you do, either for a living or that you're thinking about doing, etc. So whatever's going on with this full moon in Taurus, again, Taurus having to do with materialism, you actually are reaping the rewards of some work that you've done. It's ready to be launched into the world, like the empire, right? So beautiful. And let's see what your guidance is. Ant. Work, achievement, success. There you go. You've been working really hard like a little ant. And your work is paying off. It's just like I said, your work is paying off, and you've achieved success with this. It's beyond your expectations. You didn't even see it coming. So good for you. Excellent. I love that, ant. The next card we have is Taurus moon, babies. This is your moon. And we have transforming experiences. Wow, transforming experiences. This has to do with the 9 of Pentacles. I am being pulled towards the Hierophant, only because the 9 for me signifies the past. It signifies tradition. It signifies something that we have learned from the past. So again, that energy of tradition kind of coming in together with you transforming an experience that has to do with tradition. Again, I love so far we've come up with 2 money cards. Money is actually something that on the collective level may be affecting the world or the collective. And we have to remember what our true value systems are, right? It's not necessarily the money flow. And again, I'm pointing over here to the Aries. It is about how you perceive and feel wealthy in your life. What are those aspects of your life that makes you engage with and or tap into the field of wealth? Because it's not always money. And if it is, then I invite you to really look at the blessings in your life and what else you can bring forward. For the Taurus, blessing is coming from the past and something that you've learned through tradition. Let's see what your T reading is. Whale. Great worry over nothing. So if there is a worry about the past, you're being told, let it go, release it. I was actually going to say that because the 9 energy sometimes is about letting go of the past. So let go of the past, let go of what's not serving you, especially if it's something that's not directly affecting you. But the fact that great worry over nothing is coming out for the Taurus, and just on a collective basis, I just want to keep that energy in mind with all of the changes going on. Perhaps we're worrying about nothing. The next one is Moon in Gemini, babies. We have Manifest with Heart. This is the King of Cups. So there's a lot of reservation here. I am being pulled into the Justice card because when we're dealing with the King of Cups, he is very reserved. from a collective perspective, I sometimes see this as Joe Biden, just from a collective perspective. So this is just screaming out to me justice or something. I don't really know what's going on there. But I am pulling the justice card because there's a reservation here on sharing your knowledge with the world or sharing too much information with the world. So you are actually, for those of you with a moon in Gemini, being guided to be a little bit more reserved with your emotions and what you have to offer people. Usually when I see this card, it's like, yeah, you can easily manifest something with destiny, but people have to prove themselves to you before you go and give them what you have to offer. Oops, almost forgot your T card. What do we have here? Owl, good advice from a wise person. So yes, so maybe that's exactly the guidance that you need before you allow others to come forward, or before you go ahead and manifest with another. You know, there's water here between, let's say, me and the Quarant and that king. So there's a little bit of sort of emotional waters that I have to trek to in order to get to that king, who happens to be the most bountiful. And you're being guided, like if you are going to engage with another on an emotional level or manifestation level, consult a wise person. This being represented here by the Justice card. Consult somebody who is wiser than you on these matters. Next we have Moon in Cancer, babies. We've got Judgment. So yeah, obviously, right? We have to go to the judgment card, justice card, because when we go before a justice, we do feel judged. Most important lesson for you to learn during this full moon in Taurus is to learn how to forgive yourself. Most important lesson. Forgive myself for what, Ingrid, you might be asking? Forgive yourself for judging another. For judging another. And sometimes for even judging yourself. And then we have coins. Money will become, oh, wonderful. Money will be coming to you. Love it. So maybe this is, for some of you, something that has to do with a legal issue, a legal responsibility. The judgment has been called. Money will be coming to you, right? Money is coming to you if you learn how to forgive yourself, if you stop judging people and allow there to be that equilibrium that we spoke of earlier. Beautiful. That came in really strong. All right, next we have the moon in Leo, babies. Woo! We've got the Empress, right? So she's already here. So I'm not going to be pulling her. The counterpart to the Empress for me would be the Justice card. The energy, there's a lot of justice, guys, coming up already. But this energy of justice, justice being also another maiden, right? As a support system to the intelligence field, to the field of creativity, to the field of manifestation, to the field of producing what hasn't been produced before. Beautiful. So you're going to be keeping busy, those of you with the Leo moons, creating your world with justice as a support system. Justice being that equilibrium, but also justice being like, if you do have to go into a business, or you do have to expand your business or something to that effect, don't forget to consult an attorney for that support system. Claw, be careful, do not take risks. There you go. I almost felt the same way. It's like, consult an attorney, consult, like, make sure that your legal parameters are safeguarded before you move with this intelligence, before you move with this idea that you birth or want to birth. And sometimes legal doesn't necessarily mean consult an attorney, but it could be like, okay, let me see this contract, let me review this contract a little bit more, etc., something to that effect. Next we have the moon in Virgo, babies. We have the Hanged Man, discernment. I feel justice again. I feel justice. This is like looking at something from a different perspective. You know, when we're dealing with the justice card, one of the things that judges actually do is that they have to weigh in everyone's perspective, not just our own. They have to look at each side and then discern, right? Discern what is the better course, what's fair, what's who breached what's the contractual engagement, etc. So for you, those of you with a Virgo moon, you are being asked to look at the other side, to look at the other perspective that you are not championing or advocating for, because it's going to give you the right quote unquote answer. And then you've got bread, period of prosperity and abundance. Beautiful. One of the things is that I always say with the hangman, this is the mythological story of Odin, of being turned upside down in order to get the gems from the earth. So you are definitely guaranteed that period of prosperity and abundance, provided that you're able to look at and see the other side with that eye of discernment. Now we have the Libra moon babies. You've got the King of Pentacles. This is immediately taking me over to the Empress, because the Empress gives birth to the miraculous, right? The child. And one of the things that the King of Pentacles does is that he manifests the miraculous. This is why the star is here. He's bringing forth the star into this crystal bowl to see the future differently, right? To see the future differently. This is also very scientific and very linear in that sense that there's a science, but it's not like the sword kind of energy linear. It's a linear, like a sort of like a math problem or a biology experiment or something like that, that you will be sort of presented with, Libra moon babies, during this full moon in Taurus. So let's see what we have here. Chair empty. Someone is leaving your life. Whoa. So yeah, this is a very interesting, when we're talking about ambition, sometimes to get to this next level, we have to leave someone. We have to leave something that has sort of like is an impediment to this growth that you are being shown and guaranteed. So this if someone does leave or they're no longer in your field, it's because they are actually serving as an impediment to your personal growth. The next one we have is Scorpio moon babies. Meditate, relax, chillax. So I'm being brought into the Hierophant. Why the Hierophant? Because I'm just listening to wisdom here. I'm not actually doing. Here I'm giving birth to someone. Here I'm presenting an argument and or listening. Here I am not doing anything other than being a congregation member, right? If I'm being told to meditate, go put my swords down, put my thoughts and ideas down for now, and just go into the space of meditation, which is this spiritual engagement, which is this engagement of the sacred and or religious, right? That energy. So meditation and the Hierophant for me is actually connected. And go ahead, yes, meditate, relax, chillax. Sometimes we do just have to listen to wisdom in order to move forward in life. So you've got the tree, affairs with your family. So listen to the wisdom when it has to do with your family. Again, this is the card of tradition. It's pulling you into tradition. So if somebody approaches you or they want to share something with you, don't necessarily go into this fight mode with the swords and wanting to defend yourself. Put the swords down, listen to the guidance, see what they have to share. Okay? Because there's actually a different level of growth there for you, a spiritual one. Next we have Moon in Sagittarius. We've got the High Priestess. So of course I'm going to pull its counterpart, which is the Hierophant. What's the difference between these two? Not much. This one, the Hierophant, takes sacred texts and share what they think is important for the congregation to hear. I said not much facetiously, by the way. The High Priestess, on the other hand, will give you the entire text so long as you first find it within yourself, right? So if I find that little nugget of information and I go to the High Priestess and I say, hey, listen, I found this wisdom, or I found this XYZ, that High Priestess will deliver you the secrets. Versus here, if you say, oh, I found this little nugget of wisdom, I found this information, no, that's not the right one, you should focus on, that's the difference. That's the difference in energy. So you're really, for those of you with a Sagittarius moon, you're really being sort of pulled between these two kind of energies of where do I seek my guidance? Who has the right information for me? I invite you to say both. Take aspects of both and then apply what's necessary for you. Lightning, control your anger or you will be sorry. Woof. I don't know what's going on with you, Sagittarius moon baby, but yeah, we don't want to get angry during this time of the year. But specifically, guys, we don't want to trigger any aspects of anger, rage, being upset, even regardless of the political spectrum, regardless of what's going on in the world, because we will literally be amplifying that energy. We will literally be feeding into it. And we really actually need everybody to calm down and imagine the space that you want to live in. So definitely don't engage, because if you are engaging any anger or rage during this time, it will amplify. We've got a full moon in Taurus. This is when we're dealing with Taurus, it's the manifestation field. It's a full moon. Things will be illuminated and things will be amplified. So don't go into this space. Seek the guidance of your spiritual counsel. Next we have Moon in Capricorn babies. We've got reinforcements. That's the Six of Wands. You definitely have those swords energy there. The only one with a sword here is the Justice card, which is why I am gravitating toward it. So when we're dealing with the Justice card and the Six of Swords, we're literally being told they got your back. Justice has your back. Karma has your back. You haven't lost anything. You've got a plethora of other ideas that you can land safely. If something didn't work out in the past for you, it's because it wasn't meant to. It wasn't your time. Now you're getting the reinforcements to go ahead, full speed ahead with your swords, your ideas. Land one, take one, and deliver. Mice. Discord amongst friends or family. If it is a discord with someone who took your idea or some family member who literally took your quote unquote power away, this is showing me that you will have justice. You will have justice in that mix. Okay? Lovely. In other words, the light will be shown on this situation. Next we have Moon in Aquarius babies. Generosity. Woo. I really am going into the Justice card with generosity, and I breathed hard really because sometimes being generous is good and sometimes being generous means you're a sucker, right? because it's like I'm throwing all of this water into what? The ocean water. The ocean doesn't need more water. It has more than enough. Like you're throwing your emotional engagement into this water already overflowing with that element is not necessary. Do not give people all the access to your emotional state of being, because it will deplete you. Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about this engagement. This is the 10 of Cups with the Justice card. Sometimes generosity is really tricky sometimes, because if you help somebody out and you are generous with them, it is not generosity and it is not a gift if you even expect them to say thank you. If you have an expectation that things have been unjust, because, oh my God, look at all this emotional support I gave her. And, you know, what for? What did I do all that for? First of all, nobody asked you. Second of all, you decided to give, allegedly give. But then third of all, when you're expecting something in return, that's not a gift. That wasn't generosity. You might as well have charged for that, right? When you give with no expectations and do so lovingly. When you give like this, where there's an expectation of something in return, and I say this only because the Justice card is the one that I gravitated towards, then that's not a gift. What you want is retribution, and you want justice for being generous. So I suggest you reassess what your interpretation is of giving, because if you don't know how to give, that means that when you receive, you also feel that you have to pay that person in return. Let's see what this is about. That was intense. Clubs, someone will try to make you do something against your will. Look at that. So obviously I'm tapping into someone who's watching this, right? So someone's expecting you to do something. Oh, look, I gave you all this energy. So I think there should be a contract. And that thing I gave you, yeah, I think I should get paid for it. You see what I mean? Against your will. So yeah, be careful with that, because karma sees it all. So if your intent was to give and midstream you decide to change your intent, justice is coming for you, not for the other person. Because the other person took it as a gift. All right. Next we have, and last but not least, is Pisces. And just one more thing on this Aquarius. If you're the one on the receiving end and you've been given something where someone else all of a sudden wants a payback, don't worry about that. Let it go. Let it go. Just for you, the guidance is don't feed into that emotional stream anymore. All right? Now, Pisces moon, what do we have here? Passion into action. We've got that 8 of Pentacles going. 8 of Pentacles. I kind of want to go to Justice again. But I also feel like when we're dealing with that 8 of Pentacles, it is about money. It is about your body of work. It is about what you've seeded, right? But I almost feel like with this Justice card, I want to say the same that I said to another one over here. Make sure you dot your I's and cross your T's. I think Mercury retrograde is either coming up or before the end of the month or something like that. I'm not really sure, but it's something coming up. It's one of those, it feels like one of those energies. Dot your I's, cross your T's, get the contract, issue it, sign it, review it. Make sure that this, what you've seeded, which is ready to be birthed and is growing, is also taken care of legally. Bouquet, compliments from an admirer. Yeah, this project, whatever this project is already getting accolades. You just want to make sure that it's fair for you and that justice is involved where your interests are taken into account. Because although the accolades are great, you don't want to be screwed out of what you've actually seeded. All right, that is the reading for Taurus full moon. I think it's a couple days yet. I believe it's on Friday. And I will upload this on Sunday night. And that's because I want to really just set the week up with you guys and this, because I feel like it's going to be a bit of an intense week with a woman, government, and justice. Let's just put it that way. There's going to be some trickled information. And don't forget, for those of you that did get the Empress energy, we're talking about power, right? Your power center. For those of you that got the justice, the justice energy, we're talking about your throat chakra. For those with the, your heart chakra, for those with the justice card. And then the Hierophant is the throat chakra, right? The orator, the one that's speaking to the people. So if you want, you can do a little extra fun projects with that, where you are activating those power centers depending on the card that I pulled for you. All right, I'll talk to you. What do we have? New moon coming up next month. All right, enjoy everyone. Bye.